Tell us what goal and the element, and why did you pick it? And the first thing you're going to talk about is the
Continuum.
continuum. In August, I rated myself as emerging in standard 1.4, and you can explain that a little bit. Okay? Then it says that to get, and 2 meets the standard. How do you jump over to a 3?
You add 2 reasons. 2 reasons instead of just 1.
Okay, so what's another source other than the continuum?
Evaluations that you've gotten in prior experience, at your district, or your site, like, it's like this is what we want to focus on this year.
Okay, so site or district initiative. Evaluation would have come, remember, not this year though, because it was before you picked your goal. So it would be last year. So did you teach last year and were you evaluated? Some of you are planning your first year. Your TPAs could also be a source. Excuse me. Your individual development plan from the university could also be a source.
Oh, okay, so your IDP can work
Individual development plans. Individual development thing. We did it for Fresno State, yeah. We did. Yeah.
Next one. Next question is, what specific pathways were most impactful to your teaching practice and why? All right, so you picked a goal maybe mentally a few minutes ago. How many pathways on your ILP did you write for that goal? At least 3, right?
Yeah, that's right. I got it.
Okay. So, how many to get a 2 meets the standard? 2. To make you talk about 2 different pathways. And then to get the 3,
3 or more.
what does that look like or sound like? What are we looking for, you think?
Why professional development? I jumped over because I went to this, learned from this, did this.
All right, so I know Ryan went to Ladera Classroom Management, attended all the sessions. Good grief, I got a frog in my throat.
Do you want a cough drop? Because I have.
I gotta admit, what I think I need is a little glass of water.
You pour, I'll try.
What in the? Yeah, fancy little water maker.
It'll even make coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
See, teamwork makes it.
Do we all pass now? The whole bucket.
Okay, so what did it sound like? So Ryan went to Ladera Classroom Management, and he could say, one of the things I learned in professional development with classroom management was using proximity. And I learned that instead of yelling at a kid, I could walk over to him and the student would stop squirreling around and I didn't have to become the nagger. I could just sit there and the student knew why I was there and things happened. And as a result, this happened. Because of that, I was able to get through my lesson more thoroughly and students were able to shore up on their mile run and cut an average of 4 seconds off their mile run. Something like that, right?
So you, you want some type of data reinforcement.
Some evidence reinforcing
yeah.
the.
And I will say, I will say that when you're talking about a pathway, it doesn't always have to be academic, but you could say, and my disruptions in the classroom went significantly down and allowed me to teach the class better. I went home without a headache.
So it doesn't have to have a data point necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It could be quantitative or
Yes,
qualitative.
on the pathway.
Okay.
Yes, good question.
For the impactful, so for me, one of my pathways that I tried did not work. Like, it was unsuccessful. And like, I learned from that. Could I talk about that as like, how I benefited from that?
I would save that one for my later question that says, how did you turn a challenge into a win?
Okay.
Right? But if you want to tell me that One of the pathways that you chose was the video reflection,
Mhm.
and you identified some things in your video that you need to grow on, and you told us about how you attack that, that would be great. Or if you want to tell me about mentor feedback, because they came and observed, and gave you feedback, or this is what you did different, or peer observation, or you did something on Pinterest and found out that if you did this, it caused this environmental change in your classroom. Those are the things that we're looking for. And we're looking for the ESPN highlights, right? So you might have written 5 pathways, but we only want to hear the 3 that really made a big difference for you.
And Steve, you're saying like the things that you're expecting to see, but like, I'll be honest, I don't have his memorized, sorry. But like, if it's under their pathways and their ILP was approved, then they can talk about that, right?
Right.
So,
And they should have written a reflection about that in the journal.
yeah, but I'm
That's
just
where
saying
you
like, cause I don't see a
understand.
list here of like the things you just like listed out.
Right.
But if, as long as it's in the pathway and their ILP was approved, that's fine.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to dictate what pathways you had to choose.
Yeah, and especially because everybody's different, so.
Mhm. Okay. Measurable outcomes. For the chosen ILP goal, explain if you met or didn't meet the outcome. So there's in a case where you can tell me you didn't make it. What success you had and what changes you would make the next time if you didn't meet the goal. Okay? So you're going to explain all of that very clearly. With your partners, discuss the difference between a 2 and a 3.
Yeah, it looks to me,
Talk about the success and
they really think about clarity, which tells me like the difference between a reflection and clarity is.
Because he.
So this says what number, and this one
So if
is
it didn't
what the
work,
success
then I'll have to
is.
chalk that in or error.
I added to my.
But if it wasn't successful, you
I
guys
also
would change
changed
it.
I just
a bunch of four.
What I'm saying, I think, yeah, but to get here, you have to describe
I added,
successes.
Right.
Yeah, which is what the question I asked.
So yeah, this would be like how you fix it.
Right?
So, yeah, you could be talking about something you say,
Yeah,
so,
sorry.
because you don't
They
have
said
no
it's
success.
one or the other.
Right?
My
Or did this instead.
Are you,
That would work. You want to go.
So there are 2
No, I
parts to it.
agree.
You
so I'll
choose
come up with a rubric,
He just said,
and then I'll collect it, I'll probably do it as an exit ticket,
I wouldn't include that in this
2 different days.
cool?
Put them this for like the next piece.
I think it's good, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's like another question that says, explain how you
Challenge
change.
and change.
Yeah, that's what I would go with,
Yeah.
but this one has to be the outcome that I included.
Right, yeah.
So this goes back to your ILP, and you said something like 80% of my students will grow 5 points on an NW math score from the August to March assessments, right? And then you're going to tell us, well, actually 82% of my students scored 6 points or better. Tell us why you think that happened. Or only 80% of my students only grew 3 points. Why do you think that happened? One of the things I probably don't want to hear is I set the goal too hard, right? I mean, that's a possibility, but it kind of sounds TPA-ish, right? It's the same kind of thoughts that you had when you were writing TPAs of what changes would I have made if I were reteaching this. That's what we're looking for. What we're looking for is how am I growing? Okay, I realize this isn't working for me. You were saying, yeah, I tried this pathway, it didn't work. That's good to know, right? The interesting thing is that may work next time. But, what changes would you make, right? Okay, next time I won't give a test in the middle of a fire alarm. Might help the scores go up a little bit, right? I might have chunked my lesson plan better. It seemed like I went too fast, the students weren't mastering it. I was going on to the next thing before they really had a foundation. And so I realized I needed to slow down, or something like that. Or I realized that my Kagan groups were not structurally sound. I had put kids in the wrong places, and they weren't cooperating in their learning. Instead, they were just goofing around. So I realized I needed to use data to, right? These are the examples that you could share with us about your outcomes. Okay? Make sure it ties into your ILP goal, right? And you should have, you should be collecting that data now, yes?
In the process, yes.
Great opportunity at this point also to talk about your focus students. It's not in the rubric, so it's not the end of all be all, but this would be a great brownie point opportunity to talk about your EL, SPED, and one you're choosing, or all three kids at once because they're all in the same category. And get it. Okay? Questions about outcomes? All right, I'm glad it's crystal clear. All right. In what ways did you build relationships based on the knowledge of each student's assets and needs? How did it impact the classroom environment?
Sorry, I have a clarification question on number 4. You said talk about the focus students, it's not in the rubric, but does that mean that we also should be, I'm not in the room, they should also be referencing their data and have
Data
some
is
specific
critical.
data points written down?
Data, that's where the data
Like
comes
this
in.
percentage.
You could say, so you could say class average, and by the way, my 3 focus students also do very well. Here's my EL student, here's my, and tell us how they did on the pre-assessment and the summative assessment, or
So
a
this is a-
series of them.
So this is a point where reading from the paper would be okay if you're
Yes,
reading
of
from a
course.
data point. Okay.
Of course. Great question, thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
All right, so as you look at this, we heard lots of great stories last year about how you're building relationship with students. Whether it's, I go to every football and volleyball game, I serve in the snack bar, I hang out at lunch and play basketball with the kids, or my classroom's the one where all the kids come to at lunchtime, or I memorized every student's favorite color, or whatever it is that you've done. What we didn't hear, and where you're going to get knocked down, is how did it impact the classroom environment? So I would encourage you right now to underline that part of the question. That question gets missed.